Today we will continue our fractions lessons, and today we will be trying to find the simplest form. Previously in the chapter, we've seen some fractions like this, which is 1/3, and we found equivalent fractions. We found if we wanted to, we could divide this up into smaller boxes and even smaller boxes, and we could get an equivalent fraction that was 16/48. But today we want to try and find things in the simplest form. And I know I would much rather look at this bottom picture of 1/3 than at the one above and have to count all 48 of those boxes. It's not very simple. They are equivalent, but 1/3 is much simpler. Speaking of equivalent fractions, we had a problem like this, of 2/4. We tried to find as many equivalent fractions as we could. Remember, there are an infinite amount. You could find thousands and thousands of these. So with 2/4, we could multiply it by 2 and get 4/8. We could take 2/4, and we could divide it by 2 and get 1/2. We could take 2/4, multiply it by 5 and get 10/20. Or we could even take 2/4 and multiply it by 100 and get 200/400. We could find thousands and thousands of these. But today we want to find the simplest form. So if you had to draw a picture of one of these, 4/8, 1/2, 10/20, 200/400, which one would be the simplest? It'd be the 1/2. You may notice we did something different with this one than all the others. We divided. So if you want to make a fraction simpler, you're going to have to divide, because if you multiply, it's just going to make those numbers larger and those pieces smaller, and it's going to be much more complex. It'll be equivalent, but not very simple. So how do we know what to divide our fraction by? Well, in just a second, I'm going to teach you what a greatest common factor is. So if we have 12/16, we want to make it simpler, and we need to divide. You could just look at it and say, oh, they're both even, so I can divide by 2. And that works. You're going to get 6/8. And this is simpler, but we want the simplest form. This one we could still divide it. Again, divide by 2 and get 3/4. And finally, 3/4 is the simplest. But we don't want to have to keep dividing 2, 3, 4 times. We want to get this done all in one swoop. So we use something called greatest common factors. Earlier in the chapter we learned how to find factors and multiples. If you've forgotten how to find factors, you may need to go and re-watch that lesson about factors again. But we're going to find the factors for 12 and the factors for 16. And hopefully, after a couple days of practice, this is starting to come quickly for you. So for 12, our factors are 1 and 12. You always have 1 and the number that you have. It's even, so we know we have 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and then we know we're done because we got back to our other number. So those are the factors for 12. We want to find a common factor, a factor that both 12 and 16 have. So we need to figure out the factors of 16. So it has 1 and 16, 2 times 8, and 4 times 4. We only need to put 1 4. So what number do they have in common, or the same? They don't both have a 12, they don't both have a 6, but they do both have a 4. So 4 is our greatest common factor, and that's the number that you're going to divide each of our numbers 12 and 16 by, so that you only have to divide once instead of 2 or 3 times. so this is a good shortcut. So we're going to divide each of those by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So 3/4 is 12/16 in simplest form. Watch as we do another one. So we have 4/12. Once again, we're going to find our greatest common factor. So our factors of 4 are 1 and 4, and 2 times 2. So that went pretty fast. Our factors of 12 are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So we want to find the greatest common factor. So we're going to start with the greatest number of 4, and 12 also has a 4. So we're going to divide each of these by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So 1/3 is 4/12 in simplest form. Okay, here's a slight shortcut. If I put back the factors of 4, I don't really have to find all the factors of 12. I can just try 4. Can I divide 12 by 4? And I can. So instead of having to find all the factors of 12, I can just see if these factors of my numerator, if they work. So a little shortcut. And then we would find once again that 1/3 does work. Okay, here's another example. Go ahead and watch with me still. We have 5/6. So if I find the factors of 5, I only have 1 and 5. Do you remember what we call a number that just has 1 in itself as factors? It's called a prime number. So the factors of 6 are 1 and 6, 2 and 3. So what is the greatest common factor? Well, they don't both have a 5, so all they have is a 1. So we could divide these each by 1, and you're going to get 5/6, which did not change it at all. So when you only have a factor of 1 in common, you can just write simplest form. It already is in simplest form, so you don't have to do anything. We like those ones. Okay, here we go. Watch again. 3/12. We have factors of 1 and 3, and I'm just going to check and see if 3 works. It does. You can divide 12 by 3. So we're just going to take that shortcut and divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 1/4. Okay, I did a few extra examples today. Here's our last one. We have 7/9. So our factors of 7 are just 1 and 7. I can't divide 9 by 7, so 7/9 is in simplest form. Okay, here's your 4 problems to do. So first of all, 3/9. Put that in simplest form. Or if it already is, you can just write simplest form. Number 2 is 8/12. Put that in simplest form. Or if it is, you can just write simplest form. Number 3 is 3/5. So put that in simplest form, or if it already is, just write simplest form. And last of all, 25/100. Thank you for watching. and I will check your work tomorrow in class.